Said I'll be here, helping instruct for the confined space today. I would like to start off by introducing myself and get to know a little bit about you all. So I will be asking you all to actually just tell me a little bit about you, how long you've been with the company, and what's your background. Well, I got 12 years of experience in safety. Well, really, I was a firefighter for 10 years, so I actually have 10 years of firefighter experience, and now a year and some change, 6 months in safety. Confined space rescue certified, hazmat technician certified, high angle, low angle rescue certified. Pretty much anything to deal with firefighting and rescue, I have done it. I did 10 years in the Marine Corps as well. That's where I got my firefighter background from. I started off as crash fire rescue, ended up doing 5-6 years of recon Marine with Scout Sniper Platoon. That's pretty much it. I work for a 6th form as a safety manager. And that's where I'm at right now. I plan on staying there for the rest of my little career. If you have any questions or anything that you want to ask anytime during the presentation, just ask. If you don't understand anything, ask me a question. I reiterate whatever I say. If you have a cell phone, make sure you turn your cell phones off or put it on vibrate. If you have to take calls, politely just step out. If you feel tired of sleeping, same thing, stand up, at least step out from the classroom. Do some push-ups. That's pretty much it about me. And if, like I said, if you don't mind, tell me a little bit about you, how long you've been with the company, what's your name?
Start with me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Deborah. I'm a field engineer. I've been here, 7 months. This go around, the first time it was about 2.5 years in this. Before that, I've worked on lots of large-scale projects, the tunnel transportation projects, been certified in a couple things, so things expired, so I know me.
That's awesome.
I'm Mike, superintendent. I started as an FE 2.5 years ago. Moved to the superintendent's position in this past December. Like I said, I've been living in Citrus for 2.5 years. I started in sewer rehab in 1993. So I've been doing this for 20 years because I love it. Absolutely love it. Can't get enough of it.
If you can't tell, that's Mike's sarcasm.
What's that?
My name's Travis. Had 2 terms of employment here. First time I quit for school, so total time 2+ years. I'm the hazmat driver, the boiler operator, the jet operator, the PMC guy, and just general labor wherever they need me. Background in driving a truck, warehouse, changing semi-truck tires, garbage man, concrete, roofing, general construction, and farming.
So,
I'm Tony, crew foreman. I've been with the city for about 12 years, but in the industry about 15. I was in a total different industry before then. I was in hotel management before then.
okay.
And before that I was in the Navy. So, like I said, with the different companies that do this type of work, believe you me, there's a lot of companies out there, and there's various experience that you get from those companies. So,
Jason Wolf. I'm the new guy here. Been here 3 months. I have 14 years of heavy civil excavation, construction experience, environmental remediation for the government, EPA, DOA, or DOE. General labor. Recently got my CDL, so I can drive a truck now.
That's awesome.
Just gotta get you your endorsements.
I got enough of them.
You got your endorsements?
Yeah.
Which ones? You got
Tanker.
tanker, hazmat.
No hazmat.
Talk to me, you got hazmat.
Not required.
You got the CDL?
No.
Talk to me when you get
No.
Hey, Ask me if I want to get one.
I'm with you, I'm with you.
Well, my name's Paul. I've been in Citrus Forum like 14 years. Single go around. Prior to that, my past, got caught up in the oil field for about 4 years when I was younger and could do that stuff. After that, since I found out I could work on heights, I started painting communication towers, WCPO towers, stuff like that. Had 2 years technical background, automotive diesel, which seemed to help out. Learned to weld, started working on roller coasters for a little while. And this is all before I came to here, so. I'm getting pretty old, now I'm just kinda like the one-arm guy, so.
That's all right.
I'm John, I'm a TV operator, off and on for like 9 years. Been with this company, and before that, I drove a forklift for 7 for warehouses at Candlelight. And got a little bit of other construction, just building houses
Okay.
before that.
You also play tackle football, right?
Yes, I played semi-pro football.
That's awesome.
That's
Jerry Ball, I'm the project manager for Ohio. We cover Ohio and Western PA out of this office. Been with the company, this is my second tour of duty, total for tenure about 5 years now. Prior to that, 15 years with one firm, heavy civil, heavy highway, building roads and bridges. So,
That's awesome. So, with that being said, it's a lot of experience in this room, right? So this should just be a refresher for a lot of people, for you and you that might be new. I want to start off by showing this video to show you how important having the right safety equipment in place is, and then we'll discuss the video after we all look at it.
Gas overcomes construction workers deep underground. Good evening, thank you for joining us tonight. The workers were inside a 16-foot sewer line when something went terribly wrong. It happened about 2:20 just outside Nesbitt Distributing at 1901 DeWolf here in Des Moines.
And the latest tonight, 2 workers died at the scene. 5 others were injured trying to rescue their fellow co-workers, at least 3 critically. And 5 Des Moines firefighters were also injured. 4 of them were treated for exposure, and the 5th suffered a heat-related injury.
News Channel 8's Todd Nagel brought us the first live reports from the scene this afternoon. He joins us here live tonight. And Todd, why were the workers underground in the first place?
Well, they were actually contractors, private contractors from St. Louis. They were working on a City of Des Moines sewer line here. In fact, they've been working on the site for about 3 months. But today the routine turned into tragedy. The fire department has a name for accidents like this one, a mass casualty incident. 7 people trapped 16 feet below ground, all overcome by toxic sewer gas. One by one, fire rescue crews pulled the injured workers from the hole. But the first rescuer was a civilian employee working at the Budweiser loading dock next door.
We started pulling one out with a rope, and no time rescue got here.
From the air, you can see the accident site. It's next to the white crane, about 100 feet east of the Nesbitt Distribution Company. A closer look shows the top of the hole. Workers from the In Situ Form Company collapsed near the bottom of the hole. It was partially filled with water. Acting Fire Chief Doug Rubin says sewer crews are supposed to check for deadly gases.
They go down with hard hats and lights, not necessarily any breathing equipment. And this is something they do all the time. This is obviously an oddity, what happened today.
The fire department says these workers were most likely overcome by sewer gas. Gas like methane and hydrogen sulfide, the gas that can paralyze your lungs.
You'll first see disorientation, confusion, and then eventually you become unconscious.
I would say being overcome by what they're looking at now is possibly hydrogen sulfide out of the sewer lines that they were first overcome, and then when they collapsed, they did drown.
The gases that poison the sewer workers are often stirred up when the men splash the still water. The fumes are invisible deep underground, but produce a clear and tragic picture above ground. Now, the fire department has not released the names of the 2 sewer workers who died or the 5 others who were injured today, but we do know they were all from St. Louis. That's where the company is based, a suburb of St. Louis.
All right, thanks a lot for your reporting today, Todd.
Thanks, Eric. Anything that anybody see from this video that was kind of out of place? That stuck out.
Around the hole, they didn't really have any barricades, just had orange netting across the top.
I didn't
They had
see-
one
I didn't
lower
see a
stuck
tripod.
in.
I didn't see any type of retrieval equipment at all.
Exactly.
One
That's,
thing that moved out of the way.
all that's right. They didn't have the barricades, right? They didn't have any type of retrieval system. That's the reason why he had to throw a rope in there to retrieve him. Okay, not only that, what also stuck out like a sore thumb to me was 5 firefighters also passed out, which let me know that the firefighters didn't have the proper gear to go try to rescue those people. And 5 other employees got injured from trying to rescue the one employee that went down as well, which means that, and that's the reason why in Sixth Form implemented the Big 5, which we'll go over that later on, but to stay to the topic of what I was talking about, once somebody become a casualty or you have an injury, you don't want to be that person to try to rescue them and become a second person that needs to be rescued and a third person that needs to be rescued and so on and so forth. So with that being said, Sixth Form has implemented what we call the Big 5. Everybody understand the policy of the Big 5, right? So if you violate the Big 5, it's immediate termination. No matter whether you have 3 months on the job or whether you have been on the job for 25 or 30 years. If you violate the Big 5, you're terminated. The Big 5 is all the 5 things that you need to do a confined space entry. Everybody knows what the Big 5 is. You have to have a permit, a calibrated gas monitor device, a fall arrest system which consists of a winch, SRL, tripod, a 5-point harness, and 100% positive pressure ventilation at all times. Those are the 5 things you must have to do a confined space entry. And if it's outside of the normal scope of practice, you will have a triple SP with the, which you still will have a confined space permit, but you also will have a site-specific safety program or project or in place for that horizontal entry. So what's the Big 5 as a group? What do you have to do a confined space entry for a Sixth Form?
Blower,
Well, ventilation, permit,
tripod, winches.
So, okay, calibrated gas monitor, right? So what happens if I go in that space and I'm missing one of those components? And the project manager, general superintendent, or anybody from the safety department comes on scene, what happens?
No, you're under investigation at that point. You're not terminated, you're under investigation.
You're fired.
You're suspended pending outcome of the investigation.
You're
He
fired.
just said it was automatic.
Yes.
It's immediate termination, but they have to put you on.
You are suspended pending the outcome of an investigation.
But the way it's written is immediate termination. But HR, they have to.
And you know we've had
Process.
a Big 5 violation in our region this year. In our region, Baltimore, we had two guys let go.
Yep.
Because they violated 5 of the Big 5.
Wow.
Holy cow.
And the most important thing, like I tell my crews in my area, right? This stuff is in place to keep you alive. So a lot of people complain about there's too much gear or this in the way or production, or we only had 15 minutes to do this or an hour to do this. But there's no time constraint on your life, right? So these are the things that you need to stay alive, okay? You need a 5-point harness, need a retrieval system for somebody to be able to, your attendant to be able to get you out. You need the calibrated gas monitor to monitor the atmosphere. You need the positive pressure ventilation to keep the gases away from the space that you're working in. See where I'm going with that?
Now, do you guys understand with the positive ventilation where that needs to be?
Yeah.
Does that,
I don't. No.
okay.
It's
It is supposed to be within 4 feet of the operator's breathing zone. It is required to be within 4 feet of them. So if you have a 20-foot manhole, you need to have enough hosing to go 16 feet. Now also bear in mind, and I'm not picking on you, Tony, when Tony's down in the hole, when Tony bends over to cut the pipe,
You should pull it down.
he needs to be able, that needs to go down to his breathing zone.
Mm-hmm.
So it should technically be at waist level when Tony, Travis, or anybody is standing up in the hole.
The rule of thumb is 90% of the time they try to keep it right above
Yeah.
your head, right on top of your head, right?
Because you don't want to keep it at the person's waist level because they're using tools and moving around, and it's possibly the hose getting damaged or the obstructing the person down the hole's view.
How long do you guys need to purge the hole for?
10 seconds for every foot.
All right, that's going to change. While redoing our inspection sheets, I actually found from the manufacturer recommends at a minimum 5 minutes of purge prior to entry. The manufacturer recommends 5 minutes of purging before entry.
But if you think about it, as soon as you pop the manhole lid, your gas month supposed to go in and the blower supposed to go in. So by the time you finish setting up, it'll be almost 5 minutes anyway. And that's when you get your first gas monitor reading. So you probably put your gas monitor down there, put the positive pressure ventilation in there, and you get your first reading, and then you come back and you set your trap pause and everything else. So by that time, 5 minutes would have been surpassed by that time anyway. So you still should be good.
Regardless of the size of the hole.
Well, when you come to the air exchange and proper ventilation for the space,
It's cubic feet and stuff. So.
it depends on the diameter and all. That's the reason why.
That's why I say at a minimum 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
At a minimum.
Like if it's 48 inches, if it's 60 inches, you might have, instead of having, like at TRA, they didn't have 1800 CFM. They had 16,000 CFM with coolers on it to do that over the hole because that was required for the amount of H2S they was getting with 300 parts per million. And they was doing 96 at that time, 96 inch over the whole without installation. So it depends, and that's the reason why when it's a triple SP to come out, or if it's a large diameter, that's the reason why the safety professional need to be involved in that, because that's when the proper amount of ventilation comes into play too. Because you can ventilate the space, but if you don't have the appropriate CFMs to ventilate that space, it's pretty much as like you're going in there without any ventilation. So that's why when the triple SPs come out, it's the safety manager, the ops manager, well, 2 operation
It would be,
managers have to approve that.
I don't know how that would work here.
Safety and 2 levels of operation.
Well, that's usually ran
we've
into.
done them all the time. And
Yeah. I mean, we haven't had one since I've been here, but
Bill will do it, and then we'll send it to Chuck Delaney.
Yeah.
In the absence, I think it says in the absence of a general superintendent, the PM can sign off on it.
Yes, but they have taken away the authority from a lot of PMs to approve triple SPs.
Correct.
Jared, do you still have authority?
No, that's one of the issues we ran into because a situation occurred in Pittsburgh where
Yeah.
we couldn't get approval. Bill was on a flight and someone else, we just didn't have the bodies, and the
Mhm.
PM wasn't, we don't have that GS layer, so we had some issues.
Now, there are some times, in like the incident with Bill being on a flight, there is times where I will give verbal approval, myself will give verbal approval.
That's what we did.
Yeah, you give verbal approval, but everybody
Well, you know
needs to
when
go
you guys
in
can sign it
afterwards and then sign it.
Well,
We
and
need
that's
to check
usually
to make
ran into
sure.
with-
Actually,
with
it's supposed to be-
Mike, because until you get it approved,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
He
spit
can't
out
print
that
it.
is-
He can't
But the
print it
only
out.
Right.
And verbal approval still means it
Yeah.
still have to be signed. So somebody would have had to print that triple SP,
Yeah.
and it would have had to be signed.
I printed it, and where the signatures were, I wrote verbal approval per Bill. It was Bill
Right.
and Chuck Delaney. The problem is something was wrong with the system, and crap wouldn't replicate.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I couldn't get it back to me. I mean, I was on the job site trying to get it to print, so that's how we did it. And then when the formal one came in, we just attached it to the back of it.
The only thing that I ask is if we do a verbal approval I do a verbal approval, you do a verbal approval, or, Bill does one, which I've been getting on Bill about. If a verbal approval is given, we need to shoot a quick email saying verbal approval given on this date, this time. And if you give a verbal approval, you need to shoot a quick email to everybody on that list saying verbal approval given at this time, will go in at a later time to, electronically sign it. But it always needs to be electronically signed. Even if it's, 3 days later, it has to be electronically signed. And I'll jump on your case if it's not electronically signed.
So we did.
Yeah.
So,
So getting
But I
back
need to
this
check. I need to
ventilation-
check on you to make sure you're able to do the approval.
Yeah, we need to, since we don't have that GS.
if he don't have authority, well, this how it goes. If they took his authority away, if you feel like he competent in which every project manager, because all project managers used to do it anyway, used to be have approval authority,
Right.
then you go through, I think Dennis will give it
Yeah,
back to him.
that's what I need to check on.
And Dennis will give it back to him. And the way that, since they missing like a link,
Yeah.
I think he probably needs it.
Yeah.
Well, on one of them, that Sergio was one level of operations, that's why Bill was making me as the FE. I was doing all the triple SPs,
Mm-hmm.
and then that was another level of operations that could, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because you don't have the GS, so, because you can't approve your own triple SP, so they had to get somebody else fill it out, which was me at the time.
Yeah, so technically we need to find two people that can sign off, because you can't sign off on your own triple SP.
Correct.
So
He can create it, but he can't
he
sign
can
off
create
on
it, so I'm guessing Jerry and Deb.
It's no big deal unless you have an emergency.
Usually the field engineer has it. And the project manager did have it, but they took it away from him.
We just need to find
Delaney's
out.
up
Yeah,
there.
it's easy for y'all to get it. All you have to do is say, Dennis, I feel like these two people need approval authority
Yeah.
because of this. And he'll give it to both of y'all.
It just needs, without a GS, it just needs to go to Bill, and it just needs to be signed off by Delaney or so, any other. The one time where Skip Russo did it, Junior Dancer did it once, I'm more comfortable with it, it needs to.
I want to keep it in your guys' house. Not,
It needs to stay
I want to keep it,
operational.
yeah, I want to
But
keep
the right operational people need to be looking at it too, I think.
Right, so Bill, well, technically it would Bill, and then it would be Jerry,
You guys too.
I don't
Yeah.
think FE should be approving triple SPs.
Okay.
because you guys are driven to get the
Because
product
you
in the
don't
ground.
You don't,
And nothing
We
against
have that
FEs, and honestly, I
We have that
really
on
wouldn't
side
like
of the
you to be a sign off, because you two are driven to get the product in the ground. Where, well, never mind, so is operations,
But the thing about it, the reason why it don't, because if he have approval authority,
Yeah.
and she has approval authority, you can't say you don't feel like somebody shouldn't have it because that person is liable now. We legally liable if we approve that triple SP for whatever happened on that site. So it don't matter who has it, whether he driven for production or not. Now, once he signed that, he's saying that he feels like everything is safe. You know what I'm saying? He approves everything that they have written out in that triple SP. So legally, once I approve that triple SP, if anything happened to you all, I'm responsible for that. Not the person who created triple SP. No, the people who approved it are responsible for anything that happened after the fact.
If you have a job where a triple SP is in order, I would think that a verbal approval to me is like something unexpected come up.
Yeah.
Like now I've got to react to this.
Yes.
But I normally like a triple SP, there should be enough time to where
A week or two in advance.
at least
There's
you
ten-
know ahead of time that you're getting into.
It's
That's not true, that's not true. The problem with it was PWSA, we had it set up that way, we were doing them 48 hours in advance. Because you can only do them so far in advance, because you're not even on the damn job site to go
Right.
look at it.
I
Stuff got jacked around, and so tomorrow night, we've gotta put this one in, and we're doing night shots. So this morning at 7 AM, I'm trying to get triple SPs approved for tonight.
Yeah.
All right? Bill's on a
Sometimes
plane,
it- yeah,
Bill's on
sometimes
a
it
plane
happens
from
like that.
Baltimore, that's the way the whole Pittsburgh job was. Bill's on a plane from
Those are
Baltimore,
exceptions.
that, there
Yeah.
are not that many exceptions.
No.
You know, everybody thinks it's like, well, if we plan accordingly, we can plan the best we can. Shit happens, it's sewer rehab, and we still gotta get the damn pipe in there.
Exactly, it does, but that's why I said
Deb,
initially when
If you can do it 3
if it's
weeks
a job
in
that
advance, hell, we would, but.
you know when you go if it's a job that requires a triple SP from the beginning, you already know it's gonna be
we're
some
dealing
type
with like
of
a
hard-
96.
It's gonna be
or-
some hard, some type of, if it's a big job, what happens when you're doing a site survey and whatever, the safety manager actually supposed to be a part of that to see what the exchange rate's supposed to be, how much ventilation you need, what's the proper PPE you're gonna need for that too, because you might have to be undersupplied out. He has to go with you, that's the reason why I'm saying, and that's the reason why I was saying that initially before triple SP even get thought of, like in they had the job in Chicago where I had to go out and measure the atmosphere and check and see how much exchange rate they're gonna need, whether they were gonna have to go on undersupplied out, or, SCBA, because they did that before that. So with that, like, in your scenario, when you saying it was every day, if I was a safety manager on that job, I would already knew what was required from that. So if you were submitting them 24 hours in advance, okay, sure, because I already know what's required for that whole job. Because I was included in the initial setup of the job.
Yeah, all I was saying was, let's suppose you got a 36-inch bag on your truck.
Yes.
Wouldn't you think you'd have a triple SP? Because someone might have to get in a pipe, you got a 36-inch pipe on your bag on your truck. Before you go there, I think it should all be taken care of.
The problem is, it depends on where you're at and how you're working. The Bonco, we had to have a triple SP to be able to open that. Remember the tap we were gonna have to open? I couldn't even submit the triple SPs till I was able to take the picture for Bill Thompson of how that whole thing was set up.
Exactly.
You know, I know there's exceptions and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you're going to a job where there's a 48-inch pipe, you would think that there should be a triple SP already in place.
In a perfect world,
and if you don't have to use it, then you don't have to use it. But
in a perfect world, we usually get triple SPs a week in advance. But we work in an imperfect world.
Right.
So I'm receiving triple SPs
2 days a day.
24 hours, 12 hours. Hey, can you sign this so we can go in this pipe right now? That's that's the nature of our business.
Yes.
And
I don't think you can fill out a triple SP without seeing the job site.
right, you can't. Because then there's other things that are
usually there at the most a day before.
a good example is up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where our Charlton guys work. They literally will submit a triple SP. They'll do it from a site survey the day before, and then turn around and change it because conditions have changed.
Right.
And that's what
the next day.
And that's what they're supposed to.
And that's what they're doing. So it's in a perfect world, which we don't work in.
Right.
A week is sufficient. Honestly, it's 24 hours. Sometimes it's, well, I can't go in until you sign this. I just gave it to you 15 minutes ago. That's just,
yeah.
And that's where the communications happen. That's where me and Mike, Jerry, that we all talk and get that taken care of. But that's
the expectation is that.
My expectation is, as soon as you've done the walk, Deb, if you're doing a walk and it's a 48-inch pipe, this is going to require a triple SP because we're going to send people in there to do, we're going to send people in there to do laterals. You have a general knowledge of that pipe right then and there because you're popping the manhole cover, you're looking at the map, and you could say, look, we're going to need a triple SP, we're going to have to put a plug in, we're going to have to do bypass, the flow rate is, X, Y, and Z, so we're going to need a bypass watch, all this stuff needs to be in place. Mike, you create a triple SP right now, this is your projected date to do the job.
I'm not going to fill out a triple SP if I haven't looked at the job site.
And that's the way it should be. And that's the way it should be.
That's why when I was the field engineer, I went and I filled out, and that's why Bill wanted me to do them, because that way we didn't have to worry about.
That's what you're supposed to do, though. You can't, like you said, you can't do it if I haven't seen it, because you don't know.
So I'm not going to fill it out just off somebody else's information.
No, definitely not, because
that's not what maybe it came off wrong. I wasn't trying to imply that you go off with Deb's. I know you have to see it. I have to, I physically have to see it, or, I need
the FE or PM or whoever should fill out. I don't think they will let PM fill out triple SPs.
That's why they took it from a lot of them.
They won't let them fill them out. Field engineers can fill them out, and superintendents, and I think a foreman can fill out triple.
I just need to see what your guys' level is, and it's just a matter of email.
I report directly to cyber.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in the triple SP
for
system
authority.
For the approval authority and
it's
creating. No, I need to find out where. I know where you have creating authority. I don't know if Deb's got creating authority.
I did when I was here before. I don't know.
Okay, so I need to check to make sure she has creating authority. I got to see where Jerry stands for approval and creating authority, so on and so forth. You guys are a special case just because you guys are Ohio.
That's why I thought they gave it back to Jerry.
Yeah.
So
Because
let me
I
find
thought
out.
If you look at the triple SP form, I thought it says on that form, in the absence of a GS, the project manager can approve the triple SP.
Yeah, but I gotta see if Jerry's still in the or Jerry's in the system for approval purposes. So we can. I'm just gonna run a who in Ohio can do triple SPs, who can approve them, so on and so forth. So, in the absence of you not being here, Tony needs to be able to create a triple SP because Tony's your foreman. So Tony needs the authority to create a triple SP, not approve one, but create one.
Yes.
Because Mike, you're getting old. And,
Sure I am. Old ain't been pissed off.
There you go.
Doesn't show.
It comes sequentially just like that.
Are there any questions over the Big Five? Well, are there any questions over what will happen to you if you violate the Big Five?
No.
So, okay, with that being said, we have an acknowledgement form that you have to sign saying that you acknowledge what the Big Five is and what will happen to you if you violate the Big Five.
Early access for 401k.
After we sign these acknowledgement forms, we're gonna go outside, we're gonna get hands-on training with all the components that are in the Big Five, and then Eric will go with the 4-to-1 retrieval system.
Remember those scenarios at the end of our training yesterday that Don brought up?
Yes,
About the new guy and the boiler operator?
yes,
And they did this, the new guy and the boiler operator, they did that.
yes.
And once you throw them out there, I thought that was, I
They,
kinda like that.
it'll be scenarios on hands-on.
Okay, about who the other person is and what did they do or not do.
Exactly. So we're gonna,
Accountability.
while we actually doing the hands-on, after we show you how to inspect and maintenance the gear that you will be using, we also will be critiquing when we doing the entry.
So the way that today's going to go with the way we have it set up today, we're going to give you guys a scenario, and we want you guys to work like you normally work. And then when, for example, we'll say, all right, this is a 36-inch bag. You guys were required to put Hydrotite in and the sensors. While putting the Hydrotite and the sensors in, Jason dropped a wrench, and there was a significant flow in there before you guys put the bypass in, and that wrench is now 15 feet down the pipe. What are you going to do, and how are you going to get it? And while you're doing it,
36-inch?
Line over it.
okay, let's put it this way. Tony dropped it. Tony's hard hat fell off, and then it went down the 36-inch. You're not going to line over a hard hat.
Eric, can you give me the acknowledgement form?
Yeah. There's acknowledgements that I just did the Big Five acknowledgements. I just printed those up. So that's basically how it's going to go today. We're going to give you guys, it's on the printer. It's going to be a series of different things, and we want you guys.
Scenario.
Yeah, it's a reaction scenarios. You guys are going to have the opportunity to put on the M20s today. So, you'll have it on your belt, and while in that 36-inch pipe, you're going to see how difficult it is while somebody's yanking you out to put on the M20.
I won't fit.
I got a good idea.
Huh?
I won't fit.
And we wouldn't put you in there, and that's why.
They telling you, remember Columbus?
Hey guys,
48-inch?
You experienced real life scenarios?
It's like manholes, when it's the right manhole, Jason's been going down and cutting, and then some of them, it's the ones that Tony and Paul, and that's just being smart.
But the only part of this training is, like, even though they know he's not going to be doing horizontal entry, they want you to get the practice of see what it feels like. See
Like
what it
we
feels like
want,
going up and down.
we
See what it
want
feels
like
when somebody,
with 4-to-1, we want you to know, all right, in an emergency situation, what it's actually like to hook up the gear onto the lifeline. You know what I mean? And we'll critique it and say, well, how could we have done this better? This happened. How could we have done this better? It gives you guys that little layer of, well, now I know what it's like. I want to do it different, and you could actually try it this way. We're not doing it in a live sewer. You know what I mean? Before we get going, this year so far, guys, for our industry has been a deadly year. February 4th, you guys see up on the screen, 2 workers in New Orleans lost their life. One guy was working down in the hole. The bypass actually blew upstream. they got a big rush of water. That rush of water grabbed the guy's chainsaw, dragged him down, and y'all have heard it in our industry, it's suicide by friendship. 2 guys jumped in the hole. Only 1 guy came out alive. Alright? And then, are you guys aware of what happened in Tampa Bay in February?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a stand down, we had that stand down.
What also came out of that, besides the workers that died in that, 7 Tampa Bay firefighters were hospitalized. That's how bad it was. And we actually worked on that line before, before the other company did.
So this was in situ form?
No, this was not in situ form. Both of these were not in situ. This is industry related. This wasn't in situ form.
Well, 3 years ago, right up here, off of 63,
Here, you can stop there.
a guy went down in the manhole for the city.